Weather affects everything, from how we feel to how we live. But what's really going on above us? Each week on Atmospheric Insight, we dig deeper into the science of weather and the stories it shapes. This is Atmospheric Insight, where science meets the sky.
Welcome back to another installment of Atmospheric Insight. I'm meteorologist Adam Epstein.
I'm meteorologist Riley O'Connor.
Riley, it's been an interesting start to the week.
Yeah.
You had your weekend impacted by some inclement weather. Got caught in a nice thunderstorm, huh?
It was pretty cool, I gotta say. Interesting yesterday, just looking at the clouds, I was like, looking kind of interesting.
Yeah.
And then sure enough, late afternoon, there was a couple cells that moved through the Davis area. I was at gymnastics with my daughter, and it was like the sky just opened up, had hail, the thunder, and it was pretty loud, and the lightning. There were some good flashes out there.
Right. And while you were texting me saying, like, hey, the sky's getting dark, the rain's starting, seeing some thunder, I was watching it develop on the radar just like a couple minutes after you were texting me. So it was pretty cool to see our technology works.
Absolutely, right?
Yeah. And I am jealous of you because here in Sacramento, we just got like a little drizzle like an hour after that, but no thunderstorms by the station. I didn't see any fun downpours.
Yeah.
But there was some hail by you too, right?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, and it was. I sent you a video of the hail trying to. We were trying to take video. It wasn't real big, but it was big enough that it was making noise. You could definitely see it bouncing off.
Pinging, yeah.
But it was the downpour. It was pretty good. So we had 2 rounds. We had one that moved through, and then a little bit of a break, and then a second one came through. But it was. I have to say, it was pretty fun. The kids got excited about it.
Yeah, all right. I would get excited too. So this got me thinking about rain and our water year and how things are stacking up. So a little bit of rain yesterday. Most locations, these storms went through pretty quickly, so it didn't amount to much. Some places like Folsom near 3/4 of an inch of rain, and then other places where it poured for like 10 minutes, less than 1/10 of an inch of rain.
Yep.
But I want to talk about Folsom Lake because it is such a popular region in our area for people to go recreate, for people to go fishing, boating, hang out by the shore. And I remember back in 2021, we were in a severe drought. It was actually 2 years in a row. This was the second year. And the water levels were record breaking low. We had some crazy pictures of the boat docks completely exposed so people could drive down to almost the middle of the lake. And I went back and found the picture from space from NASA satellites. And you can see on the left side of your screen there, that's how low the water was.
That's crazy comparison right there.
Compared to this year. So you have those offshoots, right, that go north, east, both of them, and they were barren, right, 5 years ago, and now they're completely full. So recreation, no problem. You're in good hands. You want to go to Folsom Lake.
Absolutely. Yeah. Do you remember what people were talking about? It was that low, if they'd ever seen it that low before?
Yeah, it's happened before because it's interesting how Folsom Lake is set up. So it's kind of shallow on the outskirts,
Okay.
right? So once the water level drops, you can see the edges of it pretty quickly.
Okay.
And then it's like a cone, you can imagine, right?
Mhm.
So the top of it, that section of water is equivalent to like a huge portion in the bottom,
Oh,
right?
okay.
I don't know if I'm describing that well, but
Yeah.
basically it fills up fast and it drains very fast.
Okay. Yep.
If it dries out.
Yeah.
So I want to look at all of our other reservoirs around, and Folsom Lake's at 97% of capacity, right? It's pretty much as full as it gets.
Mhm.
Lake Shasta, Lake Oroville, they're up there too. Those are the two biggest reservoirs here in Northern California and the state. So we're in good shape, and
Yeah.
it's not like we need more rain right now. In fact, I've heard from people in agriculture that rain now can actually hurt. And when it comes to hay, they're harvesting that hay.
Mm-hmm.
So they don't want it to get wet.
Makes sense.
And there are a couple other reasons why it's like, okay, we can move away from rain.
Yeah.
But we will get some storms here and there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good to see those numbers.
Yeah, great to see those numbers. All right, so for this week's Ask Adam, I was inspired by my favorite sports team franchise of all time. It's the only team I truly love, the New York Knicks, and their remarkable run. Check it out.
I am so happy right now. Let's go Knicks. First time since 1999 that they made the finals. Back in 99, I was just a little boy in elementary school, huge Knicks fan. Latrell Sprewell was my favorite player. Our big three was Latrell, Allen Houston, Marcus Camby. I used to want to play like Latrell, shoot like Allen. Didn't really quite work out, but I became a meteorologist. So I wanted to talk about the differences in weather and climate from 1999 to now. Let's start with New York City, specifically in honor of the Knicks. Back in 99, the mean temperature for the year based on a regression line, which is basically the best fit line, was 55 degrees Fahrenheit. Fast forward to now, 2025, 56.9 degrees Fahrenheit. That's an increase of almost exactly 2 degrees Fahrenheit. Precipitation-wise, in 99, it was 50.28 inches per year, and now it's 50.99 inches per year, which is a slight increase. But what's decreasing is snow. Warmer temperatures, less snow. 33.5 inches was the average in 1999. It's down to 22.9 inches per year now. That's a decrease of 10.6 inches of snow on average. Now, globally, we've absolutely experienced changes too. The global temperature mean was 0.74 degrees Fahrenheit above the pre-industrial revolution baseline. Now it's 2.11 degrees Fahrenheit above that baseline. That's an increase of 1.37 degrees Fahrenheit, with impacts all around the world, largely in part to humans burning fossil fuels and emitting greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide into our atmosphere. It's not just getting warmer, but the rate of warming is also increasing. In the past 30 years, it's got much warmer, much faster than the long-term trend from 1901 to 2024. And if that's not enough of a signal of things changing in a bad way, the top 10 hottest years globally all happened since 2015. Where do we go from here? There are projections based on our rate of pollution. If we cut emissions or keep going even faster, basically temperatures will increase regardless, but we can bend that curve back down towards a level line if we cut emissions in a very significant way. If we don't, temperatures are just going to get warmer, and it's going to have more negative impacts across the globe. Look, I hope the Knicks stay hot, but I hope our planet doesn't. That was a good one, right?
I was thinking about it at the end. I was like, wow, yeah, that's clever, right?
It was.
But yeah, I was thinking like, what was my life like back in 99 and thinking about being carefree and, before cell phones and before the internet was uber popular.
Yeah.
And then I was thinking, well, why don't we talk about what the weather was like back then? And my big takeaway was the snow,
Right.
right? I remember being a little kid, and yeah, we have some bias in our memories, but my birthday's in December. I remember there being snow on my birthday frequently. And, now that I'm older, it seems like it's very rare that it snows in December in New York. And it turns out that's true.
Right.
Yeah.
It was that. I think that was one of the eye-opening things that you said. It was the snow. That's a huge difference.
It is. It's almost a foot less on
Right.
average per year, right?
Yeah.
That makes a very big difference. All right. So we've got an interview with you coming up. Riley, what are we talking about this week?
Well, since May is Melanoma and Skin Cancer Awareness Month, I actually talked with a local dermatologist about how to protect your skin.
All right. Perfect. Very useful information for everybody to know. We'll be right back with that interview in 2 minutes. Welcome back to Atmospheric Insight. Riley, we're talking about skin cancer and the impacts there.
Yeah, and I spoke with a local dermatologist and really got into the depths of what we need to do to protect our skin and also what type of sunscreen should we be using. And he had some really good answers and tips.
Yeah, I've got some questions about that too. I've heard some differing opinions, so let's see what they have to say.
Thanks for joining us on Atmospheric Insight today. I'm talking with Dr. Parsi. He's a dermatologist with Kaiser Permanente. How are you doing, doctor, today?
I'm doing well. Thank you. Thanks for having me on the show.
Absolutely. Let's talk a little bit more about temperatures and the summertime. People are outdoors right now. What are some of the mistakes that people are doing in not protecting their skin enough right now?
I would say one of the biggest things that I see and hear about from my patients is, well, I put on sunscreen, and then they kind of leave it at that. And the reality is, A, what kind of sunscreen are you using? Okay, and B, how long were you outside? Did you reapply often enough? So a big mistake can be putting on a sunscreen that maybe isn't adequate in terms of its SPF value for the amount of time you're going to be outside. And then again, if you are outside for an extended amount of time and not reapplying, then that sunscreen at some point is going to wear off. So you might be getting a lot more sun than you expected. And just, for example, one application of a sunscreen may not be enough.
Talking about reapplying, how often should you reapply sunscreen?
So you'll read online, the general recommendation is every few hours. But I will tell you, if you're putting on an SPF value of, say, 100, you're probably good for even longer, let's say 2 to 3 hour window. If you were putting on an SPF of 15 or 30, a lower value SPF, Part of that SPF value is actually created by how long it lasts. And so if an SPF 15 or 30 is put on, you're probably looking at having to apply every 1 to 2 hours, so much more frequently.
I want to jump in on a couple things because social media is huge, right? And people watch social media and they believe it. I've been seeing some things where they've been talking about chemicals in sunscreen, and that is what's possibly causing issues and imbalances and cancer. What type of sunscreen should we be using? Because there are so many types and so many opinions coming in, so many influencers. What are the right sunscreens to use?
I'm really glad that we're touching on this because, as you mentioned, once an idea gets out there on social media, it can spread like wildfire, whether true or false sometimes. So I will tell you that a lot of the concern about some of the chemicals, specifically certain chemicals as oxybenzone, octinoxate, those two are considered chemical sunscreens, meaning they do get absorbed into the skin. There were some animal studies showing that there may be some potential disruption of hormone levels and such with those sunscreens and those chemicals. I would say that the reality is in the doses that humans use them, again, you maybe went out in the sun a few days during the summer where you're going to be lathering up all over. In studies with animals, typically they're either rubbing it from head to toe daily or even having them ingested. You're going to have higher rates of all kinds of side effects. But in general, all of the kind of larger studies looking at can that information from animals be extrapolated and applied to humans points to no. In other words, that those same risks from applying a medicine to a mouse from head to toe every day for weeks and weeks probably is not going to give the same result into a human that's applying it to smaller areas for less amount of time.
Is the correct term mineral sunscreen that we should be looking for?
Yeah, so mineral sunscreen, the main one that a lot of people heard about is zinc oxide. The other one is titanium dioxide.
Okay.
So these generally sit on top of the skin. And so not getting absorbed in, they're considered safe for reefs. So you're going to be traveling to areas like Hawaii where they have certain restrictions. Those are the ones that would be great to take and don't come with that potential underlying concern of causing other issues. So those, again, haven't shown to have issues because they don't get absorbed in the skin. A few things you really want to look for in a sunscreen is the labeling on the bottle saying broad spectrum. So the FDA has kind of drawn a hard line with sunscreen companies saying, if you're going to put something out that is broad spectrum and says it, it has to be broad spectrum. You can't put something out there that isn't with it saying broad spectrum on the label. So if you're ever looking at a sunscreen that does not say broad spectrum, it's probably because it isn't. Broad spectrum meaning it covers both ultraviolet A and ultraviolet B, which can both have harmful effects on the skin. So you're wanting something that's covering both of those. And in terms of spray versus a lotion, a lot of it does depend on the activity and what the person's skin will tolerate. So being a dermatologist, I see people that have sensitive skin, eczema, and they may have found that certain products don't work well for their skin because of their skin sensitivity. So sometimes there's some trial and error, trying a product or a brand that works well for you and you use it, great. If you try something that your skin, for whatever reason, doesn't like, you develop reactions to, obviously you want to stay away from that. So at the end of the day, I always tell patients the best sunscreen is the one that you'll use. If you feel like that spray, just getting out there and spraying it all over is what you're going to do because it's quick and easy, then I advocate for that. Of course, I usually tell people don't spray it out into the air. Actually spray it into your palm and then rub it on areas where you want to get it applied. Just reduces the chance of it getting aerosolized and you breathing something in. So,
what are some of the warning signs and changes in color of your skin, moles that we should look out for, and how often should we go to the dermatologist and get checked?
Those are great questions. So starting out with what to look for. There are some general guidelines out there. You'll see them referred to sometimes as the DECDEs of melanoma. Those in general, if you look them up, it'll talk about for asymmetry. So a mole, that's round should basically, if you cut it in half, one side should mirror the other side. The border of it should be regular. You shouldn't have it looking like it's drawing an arm or a leg off to a side. The C is for color. So really a mole, if it's all dark, great. If it's all light, great. You don't want a mole that has dark spots, light spots, red, even white spots all within the same mole. What we're thinking is the mole cells should all be of the same lineage. So they should all be producing the same color. If there's multiple different colors, that tells us actually maybe something else is brewing there. Size-wise, some people obviously have been born with birthmarks. That can be a lot larger, or born with a lot of moles as a baby that over their lifetime grew with them. Those often can be larger. Doesn't necessarily mean that it's a bad thing. But if you're someone who, as an adult, has a small mole on your thigh, that over the course of time you notice it's growing, doubling or tripling in size, we would not expect a mole that's been present and stable as a young adult to all of a sudden start growing. So that's where the E comes in for evolving. Really, even though you may have had a mole that's normal most of your life, again, getting sun exposure, so the UV rays disrupt DNA in our skin. And it's actually that DNA damage over time that can lead to a skin cancer. So if you had a mole that's normal but has been getting hit with a lot of sun over your lifetime, there is a chance that it could turn bad. And so that's where the E for evolving or changing. If you notice a mole that 1 week it looked like something and then a month later it looks totally different, that would be something that we would want to take a look at. And then circling back to how often you should see this. So, there are some guidelines out there from some national guideline groups that are basically saying, hey, if you have a personal history of skin cancer, if you have a first-degree relative with a personal history of skin cancer, you're clearly someone who's at risk and should be seen at least for like a baseline exam. If you're someone who's never had skin cancer, parents, siblings, never had skin cancer, you may not necessarily need to see a dermatologist on a regular basis. There are a lot of obviously great primary care physicians, people that work in adult medicine that are really good at checking skin. And within Kaiser, the way our system works is if you're seeing your primary care doctor and they see a spot that looks odd, the incredible thing is that they can snap a photo in real time, send it to one of the on-call dermatologists like myself, and we can say, hey, yeah, this looks fine, or you know what, we need to see that person today. So leveraging technology to really hone in and take care of what needs to be taken care of. But again, as far as seeing a dermatologist, if you have some risk factors, very important, I think, to see one of us. And if you don't, good to at least get established with your primary care physician or provider so that they have a baseline of how your skin looks and over time can monitor.
Perfect. That's great advice. I actually just went and had my skin checked recently, and I'm good. So, so I want to thank you so much for joining us today. You gave great tips, great advice, and diving in with me. And we look forward to talking with you sometime in the near future.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely.
Riley, fantastic interview. I learned so much. There's a ton of useful information there. Like zinc oxide, right? I've heard of that before.
Right.
For, coral safe, but I didn't realize it doesn't, go into the skin. It stays on top of the skin.
Right.
Makes sense why it's not as much of a concern. You have a big takeaway from hearing what he had to say?
Yeah, I think it's always just safety in general. I mean, he had some great information, but it was really the types of sunscreens that you use and what is good versus the ones that aren't, right?
Yeah.
Because you see a lot of things on social media. People were saying, it's the actual product that's causing the cancer, not the sun. So, learning about mineral sunscreens was really helpful for me.
Right. And learning about the studies that it seems like people are misinterpreting.
Right.
You're not covering yourself in sunscreen head to toe every day and ingesting it too.
Yep.
Right. So probably not much to worry about. And I always thought if we called it solar radiation burns instead of a sunburn, I think people would stay out of the sun a bit more.
A little bit more. Yeah. Kind of hits home a little bit.
All right. We'll be back and hear from Genevieve Melzer. She takes us outside coming up in 2 minutes.
We're back at Garden at the Line to find out how this outdoor business deals with the rainy months here in Sacramento. What happens when rain is suddenly in the forecast?
When it rains, as we've discovered this last year, that is one of the reasons why we really committed and invested in this new shade and all-weather structure, because it will provide a respite and a coverage from the rain in the spring, summer, fall, but then it will also be able to be sided and contain more heat, because we will have fire pits in there as well that are lovely to look at and very cozy. So I think that the biggest thing that we can do is just get that structure up to still be able to create the environment that's innately here while it's raining as well.
Have you had to cancel or move events due to the weather?
Yes, we have. It's unfortunate, but we try and get ahead of it as much as we can. We've had, some smaller, like farmers market, makers market events that we've moved, some live performances, and we just really want to make sure that the artists that we're working with play their full set or do their full thing, and not really risk it. So we do err on the side. If there's going to be some bad weather coming our way, we will cancel that and rebook it for another time.
How do you transition the space between seasons?
We're super excited this summer and fall moving into winter, because this year we really got it down. Not only are we kind of cleaning up the space a little bit, putting some more turf down to make it feel more green, more lush, beautiful in the spring and the summer, but we are fully equipped, fans, misters in the summer, shade coverings in the summer, and then during the fall you'll start to see those small tweaks to the new all-weather system that we're having installed, where we can put up the sides and contain the heat from the fire pits. So we really have all the bases covered moving into this very hot season and then into the fall and the winter. And as always, when everything else, might fail, we have the indoor spaces that are 100% guaranteed to meet the needs of our guests.
Does the weather forecast influence staffing or inventory decisions?
It does influence the staff a bit. If we know it's going to be a gorgeous, perfect day and people are coming, we're going to make sure to have our team as buffed up as possible. And on the other hand, if it's a stormy day and we know people might not come out quite as much, we'll lean down the team. But we really try and incentivize people, whether it's great weather or bad weather. Over 100 degrees, we're going to be having some fun specials this summer, just to say, hey, come on out, we've got something for you, save a couple of bucks, here's a great value, and you can still enjoy like a cold cocktail or beer in the space. And then when it rains, we love to have a special beer on rotation that we special. That's a really great deal. And we call that, when it rains, we pour. So yeah, just taking advantage of maybe the not ideal weather to spin it in our favor and make our guests happy.
What is the craziest weather event you have experienced here?
We haven't experienced anything extreme, thank goodness. If it's a crazy windy night and the wind is blowing, we might come in and see some chairs or furniture knocked over. But luckily, no flooding. We haven't had any of the lights or the misters, torn apart, anything like that. This place is built really well. One of our partners is working in construction, and that's really his background. So we're lucky that our ownership team built this place solidly from the floor up.
Weather plays a major role in the experience at the Garden of the Line, but it sounds like they got you covered from hot summer days to chilly, cool winter nights. A big thanks to Lindsay and the team at the Garden. Now back to you guys.
Thank you, Genevieve. And we both laughed when she said, when it rains, we pour.
That was great.
Brilliant.
Yes.
So smart. All right. And a lot of people don't think that Sacramento has severe weather. You don't think of severe weather when you think of Sacramento, but that heat, no doubt, can be severe. So they've got you covered there. It seems, with the misters and the shade, all their preparation for it. And seems like they got you covered for winter too.
I have to say though, I do like sitting under a good mister, or a good mist. Yeah.
Yeah, a mister.
That didn't sound right at first.
I know what you're saying now. All right. With that, we'll see you next week. Take care.